This video is going to be how to install the Airlift 1000 kit onto my 2002 Ford Focus. I purchased this kit from sdtrucksprings.com for $81.63 and it arrived in 3 days. The part number is 60723. I recommend going to the Airlift website to check for the specific part number for your vehicle. In this kit, you will get 2 upper protectors, 2 airbags, 2 lower protectors, 15 feet of airline, and a bag of assorted parts that have all your fittings and zip ties in there. These are the detailed instructions that come with the kit. They include a parts list, installation of airbags, installation of the air hoses, how to test the springs, inflating the springs, and maintenance. The first step was to remove all the air out of the airbags. This is accomplished by taking the black cap off and rolling the airbag up until all the air is out, then putting the black cap back on. Next, we need to get under the vehicle. We are going to install the upper protector by feeding it through the bottom opening of the spring. Make sure that you apply firm pressure to the upper mount to secure it. We then need to put the airbag inside the spring. The instructions say to roll the airbag into a hot dog, but there was no way that I was strong enough to do that. I found it easiest to squeeze the airbag through the springs, rotating it little by little to get it all the way in. Once the airbag was fully in, I removed the black cap to allow it to go back to its original shape. This helped to get it into place. With the airbag inside the spring, we needed to install the lower protector. This can be done by lifting the airbag and sliding the protector through the spring. This piece will have a lot of play at the bottom so that the airbag can move around as the suspension travels. Next, we are going to get our airline and attach a clamp to the end of it. I found it easiest to use a pair of vice grips that were nice and wide. Now comes the hardest part of the entire installation, putting the air hoses on the fittings. Make sure that you have a lot of patience and strength to push on the lines. I ended up taking 3 breaks because my hands were tired. Once the hose is installed, push the clamp up as far as it will go towards the airbag. You will then have to lift the airbag up to gain access to the clamp so that you can push it the rest of the way up to the airbag. I then started to route my air hoses over to the passenger side utilizing existing holes and zip ties. I then repeated these steps for the passenger side. With the airlines ran from the airbags, I wanted the T connection to be right at the passenger lower control arm. I cut the lines to the correct length and then installed the T connector. With the air hoses run, it's time to install the air valve. I am using an existing hole in the back of my vehicle so that I do not need to drill into my vehicle. This is how I chose to install the air fittings. Always make sure that you check the valve to ensure that it is tight. This will prevent you from constantly losing air. This tool can be picked up from any auto parts store for $3. These are some of the detailed pictures of where I mounted the air hoses with zip ties. Alright, so I've driven my car approximately 10 miles since I did the airbag install. And every time I drive it, this bushing comes off. And that is because the bolts for the subframe underneath do not match up perfectly, so it's more of like an oval hole versus a circular hole. I was hoping that the weight of the airbag would be able to hold it into place, but since the airbag is loose, even at inflation, it tends to knock it out. So for what I have to do now is I'm going to have to use a Dremel tool and kind of oval this out so that it'll fit up over the top over here. And then I'm going to use some silicone to help hold it into place, hoping that it'll work. Now apparently this kit, these airbags are more or less a universal airbag since they don't fit tight in the suspension, which is kind of a bummer. But the airbags actually work really well while you're driving, even not under a load. So I'm still impressed with them, but it takes a little bit of work, and you might have to deal with this on your project if you decide to go with these airbags. So what we need to do is I need to put the bushing up as far as I can. Now it's holding itself up in there good, but it's not all the way up in there. So we're going to take a Sharpie marker and I'm going to mark where that bushing is not all the way up in. Right there. And right here. This way I know where to sand in between to make it fit and where to reassemble it by. Now the difficult part is, since everything's already in the car, I have to do everything inside. Unless I get something that can pry these springs apart to pull this part out, there's no way I'm getting this out by itself. So I have to work with it in the car, and the easiest way is with it jacked up so that the suspension drops down as low as possible. So I'm just going to use a Dremel tool. I actually got it from Sam's Club for like 20 bucks. It's got the tool and an extended piece which helps me get into these tight little areas. I'm just going to take it nice and slow. I'm just going to do a little by little, test fit it. What I'm hoping is that I'll get the top in and the pressure of the vehicle will be able to push the rest of it up there without me having to possibly compromise the integrity of the edge by making it thinner. Looking at it, I'm pretty close, but I just need to do a little bit more. I'm going to end up doing some on the other side to help even out the thickness of the wall. Alright, so I finally got it in, nice and straight all the way around. The only thing I'm going to do is when I lower the vehicle, I'm going to make sure that this airbag meets up with this mount perfectly. So that way it's centered, has equal pressure. If I had another jack stand, I would just jack up this arm and compress the suspension, make sure it's up in there. But it is sitting pretty good, so we'll give this a shot. If this doesn't work, I'll just have to do a little bit more. I ended up not using any silicone whatsoever, but this is a little bit of the extra stuff you might have to do when you're working with these airbags.